Hello, everyone. Good morning, afternoon, evening, whichever time zone you might be calling us in from today. We thank you for joining us. My name is Rebecca Cronin, and I'm one of the customer success managers here with the Altair Data Analytics team. Now, some of you might recognize my voice from either our onboarding sessions or perhaps see my name within the user community. The customer success team, we're here as another point of contact for you to reach out at any time with any questions, concerns you may have regarding Altair or our solutions, as well as if you're unable to get hold of your account manager. We can also help assist you to getting access to the user community platform or the Altair one. If you haven't joined the community, I highly recommend to do so. It's a great opportunity to collaborate with fellow peers and our product experts to be able to review those discussions. By the way, let's do some little housekeeping. In your control panel on the right, you should see a handout section. It's a copy of today's PowerPoint, along with some of the formulas that we're going to be reviewing today and having those little tips and tricks to utilize. So as I mentioned, we're very excited for you joining us today here with the Altair team. Our goal is to provide you this open time slot where you can freely drop in. We'll do our best to provide and answer all the questions that are submitted, which brings me to that other housekeeping. You should see a question panel section where you have the ability to submit your question, and it does not have to be about today's topic. It could also be anything related within Monarch, whether it's classic mode, the Data Prep Studio mode, or even our Monarch server. So now I'd like to introduce you to our expert, Chris Porthouse. He's been one of our senior professional service consultants for several years. He's worked in 21 years with various technical support roles, that within at least the 16, 18, maybe at this point with Altair. He started off as a project manager and switched his role to implementation and integration engineer to his current role of a senior professional service consultant. Chris continues to provide tremendous assistance to both our customers, both on-site as well as off-site. And you might have even seen his replies within the user community. So today's topic, as we shared, will be about some tips and tricks for some formula functions within Monarch. We do have a couple of pre-registered questions, and we'll definitely try to get to those. So at this point, let me make Chris the presenter so we could dive right on in.
All right. Thank you, Rebecca.
You're welcome. And I should say 24 years of experience.
All right. Do you see my data prep screen?
I do. I see
okay,
data
great.
prep.
Thank you. All right. Yeah, so as Rebecca mentioned, we're going to go over a few tips and tricks that we've used, or a lot of the forms we'll see that we use a lot, quite frequently throughout our years. I'm going to mention a couple of them. I'm going to show one here in a little bit, but there's also new ways of doing it that have been added to the product since I know Mo and I have started using it. So, but yeah, so for the first one, and this actually just came up, I think, end of last week, but someone was actually looking for a way to figure out that they had some kind of numeric code, or I won't say numeric code, they had a code, and they were trying to categorize the codes. And here's an example of what they had. But ideally, it was a alphanumeric code. They wanted to categorize these different codes into, is it strictly all numeric? Was it all character? Or is there a mix of it? So they just kind of wanted to build out a category of it. So when it comes to stuff like that, you almost have to take a multi-prong approach to it. So in this case, it's one of the first tips you should be aware of when you're using formula functions or formula columns, that a lot of these functions can be, formulas can be nested, or you could use multiple functions within the same formula. So in this case, when we were looking at what the customer provided, they basically had to have three. They're going to create a new column. They wanted three outputs. Is it numeric? Is it all character, or is it a mixed? So you have to take a kind of break it down into three separate pieces. And so the way we kind of answered it was to use an if statement, and basically it's to go through three logic tests. One, is it all numeric? If it's not all numeric, is it all character? And if it's not all character, it must be mixed. So I'm just going to start off by let's going to create a new column. I'm going to use the drop down arrow or for our flyout menus here, and under column, I'm just going to create a new formula column. So I'm going to show you both ways that we came up with. So the first one would be used, like we're going to use an if statement. We're going to use one of these other functions in here. In this case, it's going to be, the first time we're going to use is a strip function. So if you scroll through here, if you don't remember all the functions by heart, you can always scroll through the list of functions, pare down what you're necessarily looking for. So this, through the drop-down menu, you can show all functions, or you can narrow it down to a specific group. So in this case, if I say a string, it just show me all the string functions. There's one called strip. Again, if you hover over it or you click on it, you'll get a tooltip here showing what the purpose of this function is and how to use it. So in this case, I'm gonna, it's a three-step approach. Now I'm going to check, is it all numeric? If it's not all numeric, then is it all character? If it's not all character, I'm going to assume it's a mixed. So since I want to do a three-step approach, I'm going to use an if statement. So I'm just going to start building out my if statement. And a lot of times when you're actually nesting these statements, it's helpful if you put your open and closing parentheses together, because a lot of times if you are using multiple formulas or functions together, almost all of them have a parentheses pair to them. So right now I'm getting a red box showing that it's invalid, but it's because I didn't fill any stuff in here. But a lot of times you'll think your function looks correct. However, you're missing most likely a closing parentheses. So I tend to like to put both of them together just to keep them straight. Monarch will fight you on this sometimes. So you'll see even though I try to put it in there, sometimes it won't include it, but we'll show you here in a second. But I'm going to say if. So my first test is it all numeric? Well, how do I know if it's all numeric? Well, one option would be to say use the strip function. So if I double click strip here, it's going to put it in here for me. So strip basically allows me to strip special characters from the string. So in my case, I'm going to look at, it's looking for a string where I want to strip certain characters from. So in this case, it's going to be my column called code. So I'm just going to double click code here and move my cursor past the comma. And then see down here my tooltip. Now it's asking for what strip characters do I want to get rid of. Well, in this case, I'm going to look for all numeric ones. So I'm going to just say, just follow my keyboard. So I'm just going to put all the numbers 1 through 0, or 1 through 10, however you want to put it. Basically, it's going to look at that code, and if it sees any of these numbers in here, 1 through 9 and 0, it's just going to strip it out. Now, if that's the case, if it was all numeric, if it strips out all the numbers, the string that comes back is going to be, actually, let me just show it to you real quick. So just the strip on itself here. So if I strip out all these characters in here, in this case all the numbers, you can see what happened. So like in my first column or my first row here, it looks like it's all character, so nothing was stripped out. The second one was all numbers, same thing with the third row, all numbers. So basically it returned an empty string. Here's one that had a number in it, and the resulting string had the number 7 removed from it. So using that knowledge that it's going to remove all the numbers, basically I want to look at how long is the string that gets returned. So if it's 0 length, so if I say use the function length around the formula I just built, it will return a number. In this case, it'll say like 10, 0, 0, 5. What I'm more interested in are the ones that return the 0. If it strips out all the numbers and the resulting string left is length of 0, it must mean that it's been all numbers. So if that's the case, I'm going to take this bit of code here, these two nested formulas, and put that in as my conditional for my if statement. So again, I'm going to wrap it in an if statement here. So if, and again, put the closing parentheses so I don't get confused here. All right, so here's my condition, that if the length of the code field after I strip out all the numbers is 0, then I'm going to assume it's narrow, so numeric. So I'm going to say if this whole string here, or this whole formula here, is equal to the length of 0, then my true value is going to be numeric. And then I need to put a false value in here. So I'm just going to, for now, I'm just going to put as a placeholder, put false, just so I don't have to come back and get here. But you can see, just by knowing that the length, by stripping out all the numbers, if the length of the string, resulting string is 0, it's a numeric, and I can see that in my test, my preview here. And again, I'll see false everywhere else. So now I have to come up with a case for that. And again, I'm going to kind of use the same logic. Now in this case, if it's, instead of trying to put all the letters like A through Z and then lowercase, uppercase, I'm just going to kind of do something slightly different. So in this case, let me just replace my false again with another if statement. So this is going to be, if it's not numeric, it must fall in this other category. So I'm going to replace false with another test or another conditional. So I'll say if, and I'll put my parentheses in there. So now, how do I know if there was if it was all characters? I don't necessarily know that for sure. So what I can say is if, what I can tell for certain is if the length of the resulting string after I strip out the numbers is not 0, it comes back with a number. Then if, I guess the question is, if it's the same length as it was before I stripped out the numbers. So let me just type it in real quick. Hopefully it'll make sense here as I go. But I'm essentially going to take what I did up here. So if the length of this and I can't say if it equals 0, but what I can say if it equals something other than, but I don't want to say other than 0. I want to say, I want to kind of compare it to itself. So I'm going to say if the length of that same column is equal to itself, then the it's a all character. So essentially, this column right here that's all characters in here, there's no numbers in here. After I strip out all the numbers, it's going to have the same length as the original field. Hopefully that makes sense. And I think it should be right here. Yeah. So if that's true, so they should match, then I'm going to say it's all character. And again, I have to put my false value in here. And then we should just see what we get. And I believe I lost a parentheses here. There we go. Again, sometimes when you click on the formulas, even though I had the closing parentheses, it actually got sucked up by when I clicked on the formula. But we can now see that here, like say the first row, I stripped out all the numbers. It had to, if I strip out all the same numbers and compare the length to the original field, it was the same number, so it must be a character. So, and then I have a false. I still have a false here. So my third step, I have to go through here. So now I just have to do a false. Well, in this case, I already dealt with all numbers and all characters. If what I'm left with the false result here, must mean that they must be a mixed between alpha and numeric characters. Okay. So we'll say using, let's call this column using strip. And then we can kind of see kind of what we saw in the data preview. If it's all characters, it'll show up as all character. If it's all numeric, it shows up as all numeric. And if it's a mix, has like a number in it, anywhere, it'll show up as mixed. So it basically goes through a three-step process using the logic of the if statement. So it checks one condition. If it's true, then it must be must be numeric. If it's not, then I test the next condition. If it's true, then it must be character. And if it's not, the only thing left is a mixed bag of it. Okay. All right. All right. All right. So that's the one way we could have done it with the strip function. For the more brave people are the ones that have more of a programming background using regular expressions. There's another way of achieving the exact same thing. It's still using a nested if statement, but rather than using the strip formula, we can use a regular expression. So I'm just going to create another quick formula column here. And we'll say using regex. Again, in Monarch, you'll find there's almost always more than one way to do something. In this case, I'm going to start with the same kind of logic. So I'm going to check if that isn't numeric. In this case, if I scroll down here far enough, there's a regular expression function we have here called regex is match. So basically, it's going to check a string for a certain pattern. Now, this again, you will have to know what regular expressions are and how they work. But in this case, I'm going to say what my string is. Again, I'm going to use my code. I'm going to check this column, and I'm looking to see if is it all numeric. Well, the best way to tell if it's all numeric means that it starts with the number, and everything in between. It starts with the number that, and then every character after that is also a number and ends with a number. Now, it sounds like a mouthful, but in regular expression, it's just a few keystrokes. Basically saying, basically if the start of the string is a caret, so the start of the string starts with a digit, so a \d, lowercase d, and I use the plus as a quantifier, saying it starts with a digit, has to have one or more of those, the preceding digits. So it starts with a digit, there's multiple digits, and with the $sign means it ends with a digit. So essentially, that whole strip function, where I say strip and 1, 2, 3, all the way up to 9 and 0, is replaced by this little bit, starts with a digit, one or more digits, and ends with a digit. And then, again, same as before. If that's the case, it has to be a numeric field. And if it's not, then if it's not all numeric, it's either character or mixed. So I'm going to do the exact same logic. Is it all character? Well, the way to tell that, again, using the regex is match function. And it's very similar to what we just did with numeric, but it starts at the beginning of the string, it starts with something other than a digit. So this takes into account, it could be alphanumeric, like a question mark, an ampersand, a parentheses, something like that, but anything other than a digit, and ends with something other than a digit. So everything from the beginning to the end is something other than a digit, then it must be a character field. And then if it's not, if it doesn't match numeric or character, it must be mixed as well. Okay, and there we should be able to see it's the exact same outputs. So again, one way to do something in Monarch, again, if you're familiar with all our built-in functions, there's strip, and there's also using regular expression, whatever you're more comfortable with using or familiar with. Regular expression can do a lot more, but it's just might have been slightly overkill for what this customer was actually looking for. Okay. Let's see. Oops. There's no questions yet. Okay. All right. So that's like again, the first tip here is just knowing that you can build out a form with multiple functions within it. So again, I have the regex is match. Actually, let me go back to 1 second here. Knowing strip and how does the strip return? Well, then I use the length function, and then I just embed those with the nested if statements. All right. Someone's saying there's a question. I do not. 1 second here. Oh, there we are.
It's a Monarch Classic question, so I don't know if we want to do all these first in DPS and then bring up Classic. Whatever is the easiest.
Yeah, I can do that. Yeah, my screen's just a little squished. I couldn't see it. So,
so I hope that's okay for the person who asked a question. We will get to you.
yeah. We'll come back to that. Okay, but no questions on what I just did with these two things here. So the next little bit I wanted to talk about was dealing with certain dates. And one of the things we used to get all the time was what was the last day of a month, the previous month, next month, stuff like that. I'm going to show you the easy way because I want to say it's fairly new because I know when I first started with Monarch, this function didn't exist. I always do it the old way. So I'm going to show you the easy way because it's a built-in, almost entirely a built-in function at this point called the last day. So nowadays, what you can do is there's a so basically we have a list of dates here, random dates. Essentially, you want to find out the last day of this month, for instance. So I'm going to just create a new formula column. Filter, sorry, column, new formula column. And I'm going to use, and what kind of throws you off, this is a date function I'm going to deal with, but if you look in here, oh, here it is. There is a last day. So I'm going to just try this, and it'll tell me the last day is returns the date of the last day of an interval, and you have to get what the interval is going to be. But in this case, if I'm going to use the current month, it's actually a little bit easier. So I'm going to use the last day of this column, random dates here that I generated, and the interval is just going to be month. So again, if you're not sure what interval you're looking for, it does tell you down here in the tooltip. But it goes from year all the way down to ISO week. So again, this is the super simple way. Last day of current month using last day. And again, you can always format this if you don't necessarily want to see the time or anything like that. Short date. And I'll show you. So March of 1955, last day is March 31st, which is fairly simple to deal with. And again, I know it goes back to at least 2022, but I know when we first started, it was around, I think version 7 or 8 was out. This was not built into the product. So what we used to do was actually have to go here to a new formula column, is use like a date adjust. So for the current month, what I would like to do is to determine the last day of the current month, I'd always go forward a month, get the first day of the next month, and then back it off a date. So again, we're going to just kind of nest some formulas together here. I'm just going to build it out in pieces. So the first one I like to use is this date adjust. So date adjust, I'm going to use this to move my date from my random date column forward a month. So I'm going to basically take my date, which is my random date here, and I don't want to, and then you have the different options here. So year, month, and day. Well, I only want to move it forward 1 month. Oops. 1 month and 0 days. So it just gives me, so March 15th now becomes April 15th. Now I know what the next month is, I can now find the first day of that month. So there's a built-in formula called first day. And again, it's just like the last day, so you have to give an interval. So first day, and the interval is going to be month again. So now we see that we're at April 1st, so the first day of the next month, but I want the last day of the current month. So now, again, I'm going to take that and just adjust that backwards 1 day. So date adjust that result, again, by no years, no months, and 1 day. So you can see we end up getting the last day of the current month. using, again, it's 1, 2, 3 formulas nested together. Last day, I'm just going to put old way in here. Old way in here. So in theory, it should give us the same thing. I'm going to apply the same formatting. Again, if you're not aware of like change history over here, I think we covered it fairly recently. But I'm going to just take a change here and just drag on top of a new column to apply that same change to a new column here. So basically the format the same way. Right. But now what if you want to do last day of the previous month? It's kind of the same way. So a couple different ways. Again, the super simple way would be to, and again, you can take this logic for the first day and everything like that, but we're going to create last day of the previous month. Again, the super simple way. Previous month using last day is basically where's my, oh, let's type it out. Last day. And again, I need to, I can't use the current month. I have to do the one previous. I'm going to just basically adjust it backwards 1 month. So this date adjust comes in pretty handy. So date adjust my random date here. I don't want to go by years, but I want to go back 1 month. So instead of using +1, I'm going to use a -1, 0. And they adjust that. And what do I want to turn from that is the interval type is going to be the month in here as well. So now I can see that based off the random date here, so March 15th, the last day of the previous month was February 28th. And actually had, yeah, so here's one that had a leap year. So it actually does take that into consideration. So last day of this in 1955 wasn't a leap year, so it's February 28th. 2024 was a leap year, so the last day of the month was February 29th. So it does take into consideration if it's a leap year or not. And real quickly, just to put a cap on the previous month, is to do it kind of like we just did with the other one. But this I kind of like this little trick. This is how we used to do it. Basically, you want to adjust. So rather than adjusting a date by a month, by a 1 month, and using last day, basically I'm just going to take the actual date that's in the column here, and let's see where's the date here, and I'm going to use the click random date, and again I want to back it up 0, 0. Now again, if you don't know what day you're on, so like the 15th, basically it's the last day is going to be the previous 15 days before that, but it could be variable. So basically I just want to return what day of the month I'm on, and just multiply it by that by -1, so basically essentially subtracts. I'm going to go -1 times and just use another built-in function called day, which returns. So day will return the number of day from a date, so like 1 through 31. So in this case, my day is my random date. And I think I'm missing is that right? I'm missing something. Yep. Parentheses. And I should get the exact same return here. Format these so they look right, but yeah. So it's a nice way of saying, like, if it's March 15th, basically subtract 15 days, and you end up with the last day of the previous month. So, all right. Question. All right. So nothing. Please show the reg formula. Oh, yep. It's going to be in the handout. So, yeah. And comma is the decimal separators. That's another, the other question we'll come back to once I finish these little tips here. Let's see, where was it going to next? Oh, we did last day, current. Sorry, I have one with the user-defined function. We'll come to that here in a second. Another one that comes up frequently is leading or trailing zeros. I know when we talk about when we capture these things using templates, and we usually stress that if you're trying to capture, like when you're defining your fields, if there is a, like say a check number and you're defining it, and Monarch always says, okay, or an account number, and you define your field, Monarch makes its best guess and says, okay, this looks like a numeric field, let's make it numeric. Well, again, the problem with making a certain field numeric, Monarch thinks it is, if you need those leading zeros for any reason, it'll strip those out. So we do recommend that if you are building out a template and you're defining a field and it's all numeric, and it's all numbers, and you want those leading zeros, you have to make it a text field. But what if you don't do that, or say like something happens, like your format changes down the road, and you don't want to go back and fix anything, but you need newer reports, whatever, to actually have newer reports on the older data, actually have the leading or trailing zeros. How would you do that? Well, this is where another great case where there's a couple different ways to tackle this. One is going to be a nice little trick. So for instance, I have a pre-built model here using our classic shipping reports padding here. So for instance, like our account number, it's already, now in our case, these don't have leading zeros, but I'm going to pretend like they did, and I need to add them back in. If your field is already numeric and you drop those leading zeros and you want to add them back in, and you want to go back through the hassle of redoing your template, one way would be to, again, we'll create a new formula column. There is a built-in function. Now, anytime you do this, it's going to create, it'll create a new column, but it's going to convert this field to a string to maintain those leading zeros. But we are going to use another string function, and this function is actually called str or string. So str of a number. So I'm going to say str of number, in this case, my account number. And then again, as I start building it out, it does throw in some defaults for them, and you can kind of see in our data preview. So by default, it's making a length of 20 with 2 decimals, and our fill character is just a blank. Well, in this case, maybe my account number should be 10 characters long. And this is for leading zeros. I don't need any decimal places, so I'm going to take that out. And the instead of filling with a blank, I want to pad it with zeros. So as you can see, it will quickly throw in a new formula column, leading 0, and then it'll make it should always be 10 characters long. Now, again, if it's already a text field, what you could do, or I have a couple different ways of tackling this as well. I'm going to convert this to a text field just so you can see it. Again, it shouldn't affect how this works because of how our change history works, but this is now a text field, and I need those leading zeros. The string function won't work in this case because it does expect a number. So if I try to do string, you'll notice it's looking for a number. In theory, I could convert this to a number by using the val function, but again, I'd rather not. So since it's already a string, what I'm going to do is I'm going to prepend a bunch of leading zeros. Now, again, I'm going to assume that I want my account number to always be a length of 10 at some point. So I'm going to at least put that many zeros in here, so at least 10 zeros. I'm going to append the account number to here. And again, it gets me a really long formula, but in this case, it's going to be 15 characters long, but I know account number should only be 10. So I need to kind of just truncate that down to just the part I need. In this case, I now use the write function that's built into Monarch. It's basically take this big long string and return the 10 most right characters in here. Beating 0 with right. And again, it should mimic what we have over here. It's kind of the same, getting to the same place, doing the same thing. But one is if you already have a number, rather than converting the number to a text field and then doing it, you can use a string function. If it's already a text field, you can just use those leading zeros to and the right to get down the right size. And just likewise, if you need trailing zeros, it's kind of the same idea. If I needed the trailing zeros, I would have done the exact same thing, but rather than putting the zeros at the front, I would have just done basically taking the account number, add all up to 10 zeros at the end. And instead of taking the rightmost, I'm going to take the leftmost 10 characters out of this string I just created. And that way I can pad zeros at the end if I had to. Right. And again, in the handout, it will go over these functions a little bit. It has, you can kind of see some of the examples that we use in here. Let's see where we at here. All right, so I want to make sure I leave time for the questions here. So real quickly, if the functions here, like, so we have all these different functions that we showed here, like last day, first day, left, right, string. Say there's a function that we don't have built in. So for instance, like not this one, this random date one, we're talking about leap year. There is no function for leap year. You could create the formula column again. Is this a leap year? Is leap year? And the best way to check that, is just by using a couple functions we have. This one would actually basically, if I return the year of my date, you can see in my preview, it's like just returns a year for it. If that year is divisible by 4, then it's a leap year, or yeah, if it's divisible by 4. But you can say if this number divided by 4 well, you can't say equals whatever, because it could be something different. But instead of using a divide, I'm going to use another built-in function called the mod. So for modulo. So if I take the mod of year and divide that by 4, if it returns 0, it is a leap year. If it's anything other than 0, it's not a leap year. So basically, so I say if this equals 0, leap year. Not. And I'm missing a parenthesis somewhere. Oh, no, I'm missing a quote somewhere. There we go. So kind of, but again, now this is like a one-off. So I built a formula of what if I want to use this in the future. So come back in here. Say I want to use this over and over again. So what I'm going, and I know we've had a Ask the Expert session on this, but up here in the upper right of our functions list here, you can actually create what we call a user-defined function. So I'm going to hit this plus sign, and I'm going to call it basically the same thing. We'll just call it is leap year. And this just allows you to build out a bunch of functions, save them to a workspace, and you can import them later. But this just allows you to use this in the future. Basically, I'll say is leap year, and basically you need to put a date in here. Determines, the description's optional, but just it's that little tooltip you see under the expression builder. Determines if a given date, and I'm going to use some little HTML markup here just to use some highlighting in our description here. If a given date is a, let's see, is a leap year, returns leap year, otherwise not. All right, and now we just have to kind of build it out. I'm going to say add a new form, and let's see, add a parameter. So we need a date here. So I'm going to call the parameter date. It's got to be of a date type, date time type, and I don't care about the test value. And then right here, my expression builder. So I'm going to take, I think I saved this somewhere. Expression. I did true false, but I'll say leap year. Not. All right, oh, and my return type I have to set is going to be text. And then I think I got too many parentheses here. There we go. Say okay. So now I have a leap year with a date. Say okay. And so now if I scroll through my list of functions, I should have is leap year and on a random date. And then again, it should pretty much come back to the same options here. So that's ability to like use your same formula over and over in different workspaces. It is part, and again, this does get saved with the workspace. So if you want to use this in the future, you will have to import this user-defined function. Let's see. I had another one, but I'm running out of time. So I want to get to the questions that are being posed here. And 1 second to find the questions again. All right, let's see. All right, so someone asked about, for Monarch Classic, I have my data all set up in a table. I create a filter A and B. My goal is to add a new field in my table showing me what filter is currently being used. Is there a way that I can point to field filter, or would I need to add calculated field mirroring my filter calc? 1 second, I'm just trying to, I know in Classic you can have the, sorry, I'm just trying to make the question bigger so I can. So basically you want to add a field in Classic that will essentially tell you what the active filter is what I'm guessing. I don't believe that you can actually call out. So essentially, you create a new column, and that whole column it basically is repeating the same value of what the current active filter is. Let's try and launch Classic here. Oops, sorry. I don't believe. I can't use that one. Yeah, give me 1 second to bring in a sample here. Actually, let me just do this. Auto define. Brought in the wrong file. Sorry. Just give me 1 second and just gotta fix everything here. Sorry about that. I brought the wrong thing in. It just screwed me up here. Close model. No. Seriously. All right, well, not sure why it's not auto-defining for me, but just so I can get something in here. But essentially what happens, you have a table here and you build out a filter here. You do have the option for here to choose which filter you like, but there's no option for, I'm getting the table design here. Like you can choose which create a filter, but there's no formula field that allows you to, I don't think there's anyway. Just double check here. Oh, yeah, I'm sorry, I take it back. There is an active filter function that you can use that will return the name of the active filter. I take that back. So let me come back here. We'll add a filter, formula-based equals CD. Why? And put the filter on. And basically the name of the filter is filter, so it does show whatever filter you have applied. I hope that's the question the answer or the question you're looking for. I'm sorry, there's a way I can just point to the field filter. What I need to add calc. Yeah, I mean, I'm just misunderstanding. So there's a couple different things. Like if I am misunderstanding, you can always put another question there. But yeah, you can either choose it that you have already created or use the active filter formula function. Let's see. Question about DPS. I have set a comma as a decimal separator in the settings. When I type a semicolon expression window and then press Enter key, it creates an if function. I'd like the Enter key to change line like it does when the decimal separator is set to a period. Yeah, so most likely you're going to have to check your settings here, either your default or your current workspace settings on your import for delimited text. Oh, wait a minute. Is it application? All right, now I'm lost. There is a way. It might be when you actually bring it in that you actually see the separator. All right.
Is it because you have a PDF and not a?
Yeah, it's yeah.
PDF.
But all right, but I think Mo answered that. Basically, if you do have the delimited text, you just check on the change to the separator, the comma, and see if that works for you. And then let's see. I would like to know more about row operations similar to the multi-row function in Alteryx. And Ditto, for example, will not work. Also, the transform functionality for advanced transformations. Yeah, again, I'm not familiar with Alteryx that much. So if the Ditto doesn't work, yeah, so ditto copy. So I'm not sure what you mean when ditto doesn't work. The only thing I can think of is if you don't have a function before, or ditto looks at the, technically looks, I won't say technically looks at the row above, but it'll just ditto the row above it and just repeat for empty values. If for some reason, like he did some kind of weird append and the value you want in there doesn't exist, we don't have a ditto up. I know that we talked about doing a ditto up. One way around that would be to sort your rows. I can't do it in Classic. I would say like sort the row in reverse order and then use the ditto, see if that helps. Row, we don't, I'm trying the best way of saying Monarch doesn't handle row functions very well. Most of the functions that you deal with within Monarch, whether it's Classic Data Prep, work on the current row. It's kind of agnostic when it comes to previous rows. Ditto is the one exception to that. There's other ways you can kind of get around it using like a series of pivoting or unpivoting. But yeah, it's depending on what, again, I'm not 100% certain what how Alteryx does it. But yeah, if whoever asked that could kind of maybe clarify a little bit, we might be able to help you with that. Oh, and the active filter.
So we have a hand raised. It's Yulani, and I'm sorry if I mispronounced. I don't know. Would you want to ask the question live? And what I'll do is unmute you. But then if you unmute yourself, you'll be able to ask the question. So I think you might be muted on your side. There you go. We can hear you now.
Oh, sorry, my apologies. I accidentally pressed it.
Okay, so was that an accident raised hand?
Yeah.
Okay, no problem.
And for the person who did ask about the active filter, just be aware that is Classic only. Let me just double check that. Technically, within Data Prep Studio with the Prepare tab, it does not have the it doesn't have the concept of named filters in the Prepare tab. It does have named filters in the Analyze tab, but I don't think active. I mean, I'd have to play with it. Active filter might be an option in the summary, but yeah, that's one of those things that didn't translate from Classic to Data Prep. So there's no active filter within the Prepare tab here.
Okay. So another pre-registered question.
Oh, yep.
Okay.
I gotta find it.
I think, yeah, it was like when working with CSV files, are there features in Monarch Complete that Monarch Classic cannot do easily?
Yeah. So I don't. Strictly from a CSV point of view, I'd say Data Prep and Classic are pretty much functionally similar. It's just when you're working with the CSV data afterwards, where Data Prep has a lot more functionality with when it comes to the different types of joins, like multiple joins, appends, transforming the data and stuff like that. But yeah, as far as importing the CSV, it's identical as far as I know. I mean, I can't think of anything off the top of my head of where it wouldn't be. Although maybe Data Prep you can implement a row limit, whereas Classic I think brings it all in. So that might be the only thing I think off the top of my head.
And I see the person who asked the question. I can have you, if you want to ask your question. It says, let me see if I can unmute you. And now it says you're self-muted. So if you want to unmute and ask that question. I've got a few more minutes because otherwise I have my closing slides. And it's Roche?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Roche.
Oh, Roche, thank you.
Okay, so the question that, yes, thanks. So the question that I was trying to ask is, in Alteryx, for instance, there's row operations where you can take into consideration what happened in previous rows, and even in, let's say there's a certain column and there's some specific values or text in the other column but in another row, then that can be taken into consideration when setting up a function for some other column that you're trying to create, the multi-row operator. And I was wondering if there was something similar in Monarch like that. I currently have data where, for instance, an invoice, the part number is in the middle of the, so it captures the data, but then the part number is in the middle of the section of the description. So it doesn't start right from the top, it starts in the middle, and then the next part number, well, it covers then for the next part number's description as well. And so that was just one of the things. And something else that I came across is also with the transformations. Yes, I've just been wondering if there's maybe more flexibility when it comes to transformation, where what was originally columns, where I've been struggling. I'm fairly new to Monarch, but I've been struggling to be able to then create, just for some of that columns, make them rows so that there would be values that, let's say the part number, it shows now for all of that description. And then there's also another column that shows all of that description, but it's in rows instead of the columns, which, yes, was
okay.
Yeah, thanks.
Yeah. So when it comes to rows, like I again, unfortunately can't look at, like, row 2 can't look at a column value in row 1 easily. There are kind of workarounds where you could essentially apply. I don't want to get too deep into it, but essentially what you would do is throw in a field called row number, column row number. And basically you would duplicate this table and then like add another field saying, like, basically if you're always looking at 2 rows back, say like create another field called row number -2, and you end up doing a join. So you kind of join those 2 rows to be in the same row, and then you can kind of compare values. It's very kind of a clunky way of working around it. It sounds like you might have a better way of it, depending on how you're trapping your data. You might be able to grab, if you're talking like a multi-line description, you might be able to grab that all as one field, and then using one of the built-in functions to extract the part number. I'm not sure if you've done our onboarding or anything like that. And that's something we could probably help you with at some point. Or if you can like share your data, or we might be able to help you offline as well. But yeah,
we could offer that complimentary onboarding working session, so we could actually have a chance to work together. So I'll connect with you.
Yes, thank you. I appreciate it.
So I know we're coming right at the end. So before everyone leaves, I'm going to launch our poll question. This way we can select our topic for next month. So again, would you like to review in December DPS summary enhancements within Monarch? Would you like to review the updated XML and JSON parsing capabilities within Monarch? Monarch server for our Monarch automation. Is user security, SSO, and AD integration important? And then, as always, our other, at the end of this webinar, when we have closed this out, there will be a survey. There will be a section where you can submit your other comments, so you can provide a suggestion for an additional topic that we could vote on that's interesting and helpful for you. So if you can please select one of these choices. So you'll only be able to select one, so select which one is really important to get that popular vote. And I see we're about halfway with the votees in there. I'll give it a couple more seconds and I'll do a countdown. So please make sure to select your favorite one that you really want to review come December. Don't worry, these are the topics that don't get voted. We'll continue on that voting poll. So we'll start a countdown. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. So what made it to popular vote was the updated XML and JSON parsing. And of course, if we have time, we'll definitely try to review any of those other questions that we have. Let me try to get some closing slides real quick. If you can give me an extra few minutes, I'd appreciate it. Make me presenter and show my screen. So again, in that handout section is a copy of today's PowerPoint. Just note, we did go through a user community update, so this is a new web link, so it's not going to be the same, though I believe our team has routed it to go to our new community, but it's a different location for our support as well as the user community. The documentation and e-learning are similar, just some slight changes, but they are there. Again, our YouTube channel, some how-to videos. So some of these questions that we might not have gotten to, you might be able to find them there within that location. So this is that new support portal, how it looks like. So you could have the community to answer or contact our support, managing your cases. Our new look and feel of the community, so discussions, basically make sure to use your key terms, Monarch as the product. The documentation is still in the same location. Altair Exchange, they are our models and workspaces. So if you're not aware, we do have a library that contains approximately 3,000 pre-built models and workspaces. Just note, 95% of the time they will do what you need. It's that 5% where you may need to adjust it to fit your data and requirements or those template adjustments. And once you find what you're looking for, basically the attachment will be there included. And our learning, if you haven't leveraged that resource where you can come in, search for a Monarch course at your own pace, select what you'd like to take. We actually do have a certification. You can earn a LinkedIn badge icon to your name, but you come in, basically start beginning your course. Marketplace is where you can find our latest clients. So you'd come into the marketplace to get that Monarch Complete version 2024. And again, the onboarding and working sessions, the organizations are entitled to these complimentary. Once it's been hosted, then it would be an engagement with professional services. But if you have not had that, we can definitely work with you. And our next Ask the Expert, December 17th, with that new topic that we voted on, will be scheduled December 17th. So thank you, everyone. I'm wishing you a wonderful Thanksgiving holiday that's soon to come. And appreciate that. For those that we didn't get a chance to get your question, we'll send a direct message. And for admin, I will touch base with you directly. So everyone, thank you so much. Chris, thank you. And have a wonderful day.
Thank you.
Bye.